Guys, the NLCS, it starts tonight. The Sixers season starts tonight. We got a jam-packed panel because we've got to break this Phillies Padres NLCS series down. We've got other people join us later to break the Sixers season down. Man, this show is going to go on forever. But we got you set here. Trending in the AM starts in 30 seconds.
Holding gets around in front. And Philadelphia has it.
And a very good morning, everybody. Welcome to Trending in the AM on DSM Media, live, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. You know the drill. Like, share, retweet, and follow on all social media platforms. And make sure you get involved with the show on the DSM Media YouTube page and you hit the like button, the subscribe button, smash those buttons as much as you can. We are getting closer. We're up to 665 today, I believe. Let's keep pushing towards 700 subscribers just so I can start talking about 800 subscribers. I'm your host, Phil Stifle, at Beard of Knowledge on Twitter. And like I said in the intro, we've got a jam-packed panel as we get set for the NLCS. We've got all ages in this panel here, all different experience levels on this panel here. Let's introduce everybody. First, guy to my left here. Is that my left? Yeah, that's my left right there. My man, Mitch Bernstein. He's the host of the Burn with Mitch show on Tuesday nights on 12 Ounce Sports. Good evening. Good morning, Mitch. How you doing today?
I am excited. I can't wait, man. I can't wait.
Dude, I know you're like me. You know, we've been doing this for a long time watching this Phillies team. This does not come around often. So we compared to the little babies down below, you know, we appreciate it a little bit more.
Yeah, it doesn't come around often. I mean, I still harken back to the good old 2008, right? How old were you guys then? How old were you guys, Dylan and George, in 2008?
2008, I was 10 years old.
Okay,
10 or 11. No.
But as a kid, though, you were ecstatic, right?
Yeah,
I was in love.
But it was a norm, though. It was a norm.
It was the norm for those years leading up to that. You're right. But for us old codgers who are just get snarky,
Jason's an old codger too. Jason's a curmudgeon, just like the two of us.
Yeah.
Jason Curmudgeon Voorhees there on the other side at Mustang 3651. He's my co-host most mornings on Trending in the AM. We got Dylan Davis, host of Turf Talk, and Faithful Fanatics down there at DylanJD98, and George Ryder at _George Ryder, 10 years old. Jason, Mitch, I want to start with you two on this one. The great thing about Phillies being active, like so good right now. So I went to see my little nephew play soccer on Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon. And I was talking to my brother, and he hasn't played Little League Baseball yet. He's almost 7 years old. And his neighbor's like, yo, somebody's sick on our Little League team. It's a fall team. We need somebody. Would you like to play? And Connor was like, absolutely. And my brother just started talking. He's like, because the Phillies are good, it's starting to energize a new youthful, group of people into baseball. Dylan and George guys were 10. They might not have even been into baseball at that point, but the Phillies getting good got them into it. That's what baseball right now means to this city. It's energizing a whole new fan base. And next year and years going forward, that place will be packed. Am I right on that, Jason?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we saw how it took off starting in like 2006, the end of 2006, early 2007. And then when they went on that run, I mean, that house was packed from like the end of April to, September and October. So
for 4 or 5 straight years. And it wasn't that way. Dylan and George, were you guys huge baseball fans when you were like 6 and 7 before the Phillies started winning, or did it take the Phillies winning to get you guys motivated?
I loved sports growing up, but the first team I fell in love with was that run. That was the first team where I grasped onto something, and I was like, baseball and the Phillies are my sport. So them getting good, it connects the younger generation. It does, because this whole thing of bad baseball has just been, it's like I fell in love with baseball, and then I jump into when I can finally start knowing everything. and we're just terrible. So I just watch it. Yeah.
It's funny because baseball, like to kids, it's that boring sport. It's that slow sport, right? So if there's a lack of success for the team you would normally watch, it's even more boring to you. But it's like you mentioned, like playing baseball, Phil. I did, like I was starting into it at a young age, t-ball, and from there up. But like think about like when you play wiffle ball with your friends, and like I'm Chase Utley, I'm Ryan Howard. Like when you're connected to the success of the team you root for, it makes it more entertaining and more fun to go and play.
Absolutely. And everybody's talking about when he sees my brother, when he's talking about it with me, and we're all hyped, and he's watching more baseball games, and we're texting. What are you doing? You're texting Uncle P? Oh, what are you texting about the Phillies in the playoffs? It just energizes so many more people, and it just brings a whole new audience to the game. And that's something that I think that, we're all hyped for the game, and we're going to break down this series, in a second here. But Mitch, I think we could go 5 for 5 here. We all agree that this is great for Phillies, for baseball, and for the city because of what it's doing to this younger generation, right, Mitch?
It really does. I mean, it's something that can connect, and it did before in 88, in 08. Everybody was talking about it. And when you get everybody talking about it, it's not just the guys. Mm-hmm. It's I mean, my wife yesterday was high-fiving me. She never really gets that excited about that kind of stuff. But it really does bring more people together talking about the same thing. It's a community atmosphere, which you can't find anywhere else in any other part of the community until your sports team begins to win. And that may sound crazy, but listen, there's millions of people who love sports. There's almost 3 million people that went to the Phillies games. Almost every good team in the major leagues had 3 million people going through the gates. It's a lot of people.
Guys, crime is down this weekend in the city. Like crime is connected to success.
Wow. That just really took a big, quick left turn right there. That's good. It literally affects
everything. The people
everything.
are happy. That's what I'm saying. The people are happy.
And you know what? We are going to have the same thing that we just had Friday, Saturday, Sunday. 2 Phillies home games and the Eagles game. Tuesday, or what is it going to be? Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Sixers home opener, followed by the 2 NLCS home games.
Possibly 3.
If you want to leave your car unlocked in the city, this is going to be the weekend to do it. It might not get broken into this weekend when you're in the city. All right, but let's talk about it. It is the San Diego Padres, 89-win team. 2 wild card teams making it to the NLCS, guys. The Padres, I think we are slightly maybe taking for granted. There's a lot of Phillies hype. We're so over the top, like excited about them getting here. But this Padres team is really good. Mm-hmm. And Jason, I'll start with you here on this one. Tell me that this team is really good, because I don't want to go into it with blind faith and be disappointed. I want to know, look, they got Yu Darvish starting in game 1, a really good pitcher. They've got Manny Machado, who's going to be forever linked with Bryce Harper. This is a good San Diego Padres baseball team, right, Jason?
I mean, let's face it, the Padres are a very good baseball team, but so are the Atlanta Braves. And the universe has a weird way of working. It really does. When Bryce Harper goes down with an injury to San Diego on June 25th of this year, he's out 6 to 8 weeks, we're told. And at that point, a lot of people were thinking the season's over. Who are we playing now? The San Diego Padres. How crazy is that this kind of happens? It just always does. It always finds itself. We could have played the Dodgers, but, we had history against them in 2008 and 2009. But now we're playing the Padres. Definitely a very good team. I mean, their pitching is underrated. But listen, man, I'm not being a homer. What I just witnessed against the Atlanta Braves, I'm telling you right now, I have that vibe, and I don't care. I'm going out right now, and I'm saying it. The Phillies are going to win the World Series. I feel it. I do.
Show's over, guys. Wrap up the show. We've already.
I feel it. I have that feeling that I had in 08.
All right, George, tell me, is Jason jumping the gun at all? Is this Padres team not as good as I think they might be?
No, the Padres are a great baseball team. They have guys at the top of the rotation. They are a deep lineup, and they have guys in the pen that can throw. They're a good baseball team. But what Jason said, the Atlanta Braves are a better baseball team. And the Phillies didn't beat the Atlanta Braves. They beat the crap out of the Atlanta Braves. They outscored them 17-4 at home. 17-4 after Brian Snicker goes up on the podium and says, the environment. Yeah, we'll be good. Then they got their asses kicked. Like you said, Jason, it feels like a Team of Destiny vibe, but I'm not going into this series banking on a 5-game series, a 6-game Phillies win. Like, the Padres are going to give you battles. It's going to be a great series. Nolan Wheeler still has to go up against there too. And like Blake Snell and Yu Darvish are not bad. Blake Snell has his up and downs, of course, but he's not a bad pitcher. And he's pitched well in postseason games. Obviously, Charlie Morton has too, but Charlie Morton's also much older and a little more brittle. So I'll say your World Series prediction, I love it. I think there's 4 teams left. There's 4 teams left. The Philadelphia Phillies 100% have a chance to win the World Series. And thank God we're playing the Padres. I know the Dodgers, the top of the rotation is a little.
That's it right there.
Yeah, they're a little iffy, but Padres are just a better matchup for us. They just are. So I
see that point that it's a better matchup for us going against the Padres. But Mitch, everybody seems to be disagreeing with me that I'm fearful right now. Like, I'm looking at the numbers and the Padres are kind of, we keep talking about how hot the Phillies are and what the Phillies did. The Phillies knocked off the Braves. Well, the Padres knocked off the Dodgers. The Padres, they passed us in the wild card standings late in the season. The Padres are no slouch of a team. It's like literally because we're flying so high, everyone's just assuming some form of a win in the series. And I'm scared. And I don't want to feel negative, and I don't want this to be a negative show. I'm trying to look at you 4 guys to convince me that this is 100% going to be a Phillies win this series.
I can't do that as much as I would like to. Here are some numbers, okay? The Phillies against Blake Snell batted 200. That's just with 5 batters. That doesn't include any of the daycare. Segura 2 for 13. Nick 1 for 12. JT 4 for 10. Alec Boehm 2 for 8. Bryce 1 for 7. Okay. Against Musgrove, we batted 207 with these guys. Nick 5 for 18, 7 Ks. Schwarber 2 for 16, 8 Ks. Gene was the best hitter, 5 for 15, 3 Ks. Bryce 3 for 14, 7 Ks. JT 2 for 11. Reese 0 for 8. Okay. Darvish 17. We hit him the best. 17 for 71, 239 average, just 15 Ks. Listen, and you also saw Musgrove pitch against the Mets, right? Mm-hmm. That's tough. Now, I will go back and say what Jason said. Look at what we were up against with the Braves. First of all, beating the Cardinals was so great for me. I have family that are Cardinals fans. I have not yet given them a bunch of you-know-what, because my wife would say, relax, okay, you won, it's over. Wait till we get together at Christmas, okay? Just wait. Because they give me crap all the time. We have 11 championships. So, you know what? You weren't born when they had those championships. Shut the hell up on that crap.
Are you talking about Cowboy fans?
Well,
Mitch, that sounds similar to Cowboy fans right there.
Mitch, now you could tell them that you retired Waino and all their Pujols, Molina. Yeah. They're all gone because of us.
Exactly. And God love Pujols. I love the fact that he hit 700. They beat them. I honestly, at that point, I was like, you know what? This is great. Went into the Brave series. Right before the first game, I was like, okay, relax. If they don't do what we want them to do, it's okay. That went out the door of the first game. Okay. My juices went crazy. I'm like, oh crap, look at this. Right? I'm the same way with these guys. They got good pitching. And yet look at what they did against the Braves. This is a team of potential destiny. I'm looking for a split. The first 2 games, we would win in San Diego. Guess what? Home field. There is a home field advantage.
Yes, sir.
You heard it yesterday.
Anybody that says it's not a home field advantage didn't see any of the games in Philadelphia, Phillies or Eagles this weekend.
I mean, there is a good chance. I mean, listen, I don't want to predict
Just do
I'm
it.
not into
Man, we
that
are
right
all
now.
just
do
ready
it.
to pick this up.
I can't. I'm not going. I can't do it.
So
It's too much of a.
Let me get Dylan in here before you
Go ahead.
predict anything, Mitch. Where
So
where these guys are all going?
let me
I
try
know
to
you're
bring
going
you.
in the same direction.
Let me try to bring you over to the bright side, Phil.
Right.
So here's the thing. I have a little bit of a different take on it. My thought process is I don't think us as Philly fans are taking the Padres lightly or underrating the Padres. I think it's the end point of George's statement. It's not the Dodgers. We're happy that it's someone other than the Dodgers, and it feels like a win itself there. I said probably right around May or right around when Schwarber and Castellanos were brought in. And obviously the season had a lot of downs before all of this comes into play here. But if I take the Phillies lineup, and this is before Stott plays every day and before Brandon Marsh, I would take the Phillies lineup over any other team's lineup in the major leagues other than the Dodgers and maybe the Braves, and they just beat the shit out of the Braves. And now the Dodgers are out of the way. The San Diego Padres have a very talented lineup. Let's face it. Now that things could turn around this series, Juan Soto has not been 2020, 2019 Juan Soto since he's been in a Padre uniform. Josh Bell has always given the Phillies fits. We'll see how that plays out here. Manny Machado, Grisham, Profar, Cronenworth. They have a lot of solid players. I will take. And what was this Phillies team built on? I'm going to score more runs than you.
Mm-hmm.
I will take this Phillies lineup every day of the week over a very, very talented and deep Padres lineup. And you can't just put aside what the Phillies starters have been able to do. Like, do you guys realize all of those bullpen games that we had to endure the last 2 or 3 seasons that killed us in July and August? They just beat in a clincher the Atlanta Braves with one of those games.
That to me was
Aaron
amazing.
Nola. Aaron Nola has not allowed a run in the postseason. Zach Wheeler already had his dud, and that was one bad inning against the
He
Braves.
gave up, 3 runs?
Sir Anthony Dominguez, I'm convinced you could just give him the ball in the 8th and let him close out 6 outs. I'm kidding, but it feels that's how lights out he is right now. Jose Alvarado hasn't seen a bat he can't miss since he's come back.
Yes.
I'm trying to bring you to the light side, Phil. I would take.
See, I say my predictions because I already got my prediction.
back.
I won't give my prediction yet.
Didn't even need him, and he's back.
Yeah.
A lot of
I was never gone. I'm just trying to be that devil's advocate host on this show here to keep it all together. Look, I think you guys have all used the term team of destiny a whole bunch of times. But this team was also a team that had some expectations, but not maybe World Series expectations at the start of the year, especially during the Joe Girardi stretch when they were just falling apart. There was no expectations for a World Series run.
Look back at the
thing
Nationals.
that's got me like locked in right now, and Jason knows it because he's with me every single morning on the morning show, is how against Rob Thompson I was at first. But Rob Thompson, to me, and I want to get all your thoughts on this, guys, has this team understanding that expectations can change. They're not happy. There's some fans out there that are like, oh, everything else is a bonus at this point. You know, we weren't expected to get to the NLCS. We did. The rest is, if they lose, oh, well. If not, whatever. Rob Thompson has these guys wanting more. Change the expectation, the narrative of the rest of this season has changed. Mitch, you're nodding your head. Do you agree that this team isn't just content at this point?
No, and he has done. You've heard it from the players. I mean, you've heard the interviews. You've heard their thoughts. They love this guy. He lets them do what they want. He loves their energy. He said that when he was first hired. He's going to communicate with them. He's been doing that. He's letting everybody know where they stand, and they're playing for him. They know. Yes, you have to raise expectations. You have to motivate these guys by saying, "I know you can do better. I know we're not here. We're up here." And you guys have shown that to me. And now we just have to win 8 more games, right? That's what he's going on. He's got these players playing in one game at a time, and that's it. And they're focusing on every pitch, every at bat, and he's got them thinking, yes. And I really liked what they're doing at the plate lately. It's except for Schwarber. That guy's got to shorten his swing.
So actually, I want to cut you off because I know George and Dylan, you guys are gamblers, and Jason, I'll get your thoughts on that Rob Thompson thing in a second. Before the show started, I brought up the betting odds for this series, and do you know who has favored to have the most hits in the series?
Is it
Kyle
Schwarber?
Schwarber.
Really?
Kyle Schwarber, I've got it up right here.
Hits?
Oh, I changed it.
Hits?
Most hits
Or
in the
home runs?
series is Kyle Schwarber on DraftKings. Batter props. Yes. He is favored to have the most hit. Plus 450. Is that not insane? That
Bryce is currently batting like 435.
He
in
is
the
second.
postseason.
He is second in the series for props.
That is
I
nuts.
know.
That's
425.
That's got to be a typo.
600. No. Player to record the most hits in the NL conference
He's
round.
back. He's coming back. This is it.
Rhys Hoskins is third. Manny Machado is fourth. That's
So it's all Phils at the top.
Hits.
I would never have thought Kyle Schwarber would be the favorite to get the most hits in this series.
If he wins that prop, if he's the guy with the most hits in the series, the Phillies win in 5. Like
Absolutely. I mean, Mitch, you gave us the stats. I mean, we don't. Most of our hitters do not hit these starters very well.
But
so it's kind of crazy that Schwarber's the favorite there.
yeah.
But they don't hit us very well either.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I wouldn't take that bat in a heartbeat. However, somebody knows something. Listen, anything can happen now, and that's the way it is. It's so up in the air. But you look at what these guys have done. You have to look at the recent history. Forget what they've done during the season now, right? I brought that up just as some background. Those stats.
Mhm.
Look again, Jason. You said this. You said this when you started. We beat the Braves. We beat the effing Braves. And how good were they? Holy crap.
Jason, jump in on that. The expectations have changed. This team it's no longer content with just getting here right now. Am I right?
I mean, expectations has absolutely changed. Like I said, I get it, and maybe I'm being overconfident with how I'm feeling, but I look at this team and I look at the way the lineup is producing right now, this moment, the last 6-7 games. This lineup is exactly what we asked for and wanted. And we talked about it all year about we were waiting for this moment in the regular season, and it never came. But it's here now. It's in front of us. If this lineup produces half of what it did against the Braves, I cannot see San Diego having a chance against the Phillies, especially when we have Wheeler and Nola at the top of our rotation going game 1 and 2. And listen, we can gush about the Padres starters, but at the end of the day, they have to face Nola and Wheeler.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
I love it. Sorry, he totally just threw everybody off there by just flashing that. Hey, I didn't know you played for them there, Mitch.
They called me up one year. I said in 08, I said, listen, guys, I'm kind of old, but put me on the roster. I'll be good.
What was the lefty, the lefty we brought in 08 at the trade deadline, or was it 09?
There's
Scott Air or whatever. Are you Scott Air in disguise or something like that?
And Jason, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize for that.
It's
but
not
I-
interrupting. Listen, I'm glad to have you on here.
I mean,
think we're
I'm
all
just
excited
thinking-
about this.
This is what they're looking at right there, right? This was one of the best giveaways they've ever done. The rest of the giveways suck.
hold on, guys. I got the trophy. It's heavy. Let me lift it.
All right, get it.
There you go.
There it is.
I don't have any props. I got an
I got
autographed
the-
Tommy
You're
Green
unprepared.
card
That's
here.
all it is. Can
You
I
can
You have
bounce
a
off of
Roy
Jason's?
Holiday jersey I'm looking at right now.
Yeah,
in the
there you go.
background.
I'm looking at
Jim
it.
Tomey, fathead.
And then Jim
Can
Thorpe.
I bounce off of Jason's point real quick?
Yes,
the
absolutely.
offense absolutely showed up in this past series against Atlanta, except outside of game 2, right? But there's still another gear that they can get to. Maybe not 8-9
Absolutely.
runs. I'm not talking about that. Alec Boehm had 1 hit in the weekend series at home. Kyle Schwarber had 1 hit in the weekend series the 2 games at home, in the series. So Kyle Schwarber has 1 hit in the entire postseason, and he's the guy, right? He's the fuel, he's the motor in this lineup. To me, Bryce ain't slowing down. Bryce's streaks go for weeks, and I mean weeks. Rhys, hopefully that home run, by the way, I'm sorry, off topic. That might be the moment of the postseason. Out across the board, it's that moment was uneffing believable. And then look what he does on Saturday. Comes out 2 hits. If that gets him going, this lineup can still reach another gear. I don't think they're done yet.
You're not even like that's spot on, George. I mean, I think it's the Phillies offense. To me, when I say I'm scared of this Padres team, it's because of the pitching. The Phillies offense is 100 times better than the Padres offense, in my opinion, because we haven't reached the gear that Dylan's talking about yet. We can be even better. It's can this offense be successful and get it to that next gear against the Padres pitching? That's the question.
They have to be patient. They got to be patient again. They got to, they know what they're up against. They have all the technology. It's just a matter of, I believe, and Thompson's doing this for them, confidence. Look again, throw out what you did against him during the season. They played 7 games. They won 4 out of 7. Okay. Mm-hmm. Look at what you did the last 2 days, guys. This is what I know you can do. Mm-hmm. Go up there, relax, have fun.
Play loose.
Swing at pitches.
Play loose. George, jump in there on that.
Play loose. Yeah, expectations completely changed. And I just want to give Rob his flowers real quick. I mean, Reese and Schwarber struggling. All I hear is you got to juggle the lineup. He's got to make.
You never heard it on this show. You never heard it on this show.
Yeah, he's got to do something. He's got to make a move. He doesn't. He sticks with his guns. He sticks with it. And guess what? They go out there. They beat the crap out of the Braves at home. Everything goes perfect. Schwarber intentional walk. Reese homer followed by Harper. It's just like everything worked out. Everything that he has done this year has just been the complete polar opposite of Girardi. If Girardi was here, we're not in the playoffs. We're probably not looking young.
I think Gregorius would still be playing shortstop.
We have no idea who Bryson Stott is. We have no, we don't know anything. We probably have DD on the lineup.
We don't have Brandon Marsh.
We don't have Brandon. Things would just, Rob. I love Rob and I love Dave. I hated the Dombrowski hire at first, and he made me eat my words so quick. Him, Middleton, everyone in this organization, just thank you from the fan base, because this has been the most incredible
bring
thing.
Up a question, George, and you could start. And I want to get George and Mitch and Dylan, because me and Jason talked about this on Monday mornings trending in the AM. I brought up the comparison of Rob Thompson to Charlie Manuel, and how there's a lot of people in Philadelphia when Charlie Manuel was hired that did not like Charlie Manuel. And it took me 2 years to fall for Charlie Manuel. But when you see the behind-the-scenes access in the playoffs, you see how much these players love Rob Thompson, and they want to play. And I'm starting to get similar vibes to Charlie Manuel. George, do you agree with that?
I think that's the biggest thing about this playoffs too. Is we're getting to see everybody's personality on this team. Mm-hmm. We didn't get to see any of this because they're losing. The pressers are awful. Castellanos is pissed. Nothing's going right. When they're in the playoffs, everyone's so happy. You could tell. You heard all year. They rally around this guy. They rally around Rob. They do it. They really do. And now we're seeing it all. They freaking love that guy. Him getting his 2 years, just well deserved. And him getting it before the playoffs ended is just amazing. It's just another rally cry for this team. This is our guy. Yeah, I think the Charlie vibes are very accurate, especially because, like you said, a lot of people were like, Rob Thompson, whatever.
Why hasn't he had a job yet?
He's not a Rob guy.
Yeah, even he said, he's like, I haven't been known for 58 years, and now I'm walking around and everybody knows my face. And everybody knows. He's like, it's weird. It's weird.
Philly Rob. I'll compare Charlie's job with the depth of that run, that team's lineup, that core, with how much talent is on this team right now. And I'll go back to something Connor Thomas said on the Fifth Fanatic show last week. This isn't a disrespectful thing that I'm about to say, but he doesn't do much. You don't have to do much, but he's a player's coach. He listens. They can talk to him. He puts them in a position to succeed. He manages the bullpen well. That's really it. Rob Thompson's not out there just doing all these different crazy lineup adjustments, and every night they work. It's the same lineup. Same guys are playing shortstop, out and center field, outside of, if there's a lefty throwing here and there. He manages the bullpen. They all know their role, and he's a player's guy. He gets them up for the moment. There's not a ton these guys have to do, and that's the way I think Charlie kind of was. He was a baseball guy. He was the old head coach.
You don't want to disappoint. He's like that father figure in the locker room for them. And Mitch,
you'll want to win for.
Mitch is the only dad here in this group, You don't ever want to disappoint dad, especially on the home front, right?
Absolutely. It's so true. And that's a great analogy. He's looking out for his kids, and his kids trust him. And if they do something wrong, you know what he's going to say? I'm disappointed in you. That's the worst thing a parent can say to their kid. I'm disappointed. It's not that they get mad and yell at him. It's I'm disappointed. That means, oh man, I let him down. And yes, absolutely parallel to what we knew what Charlie did. And again, when he first got hired, they asked him, "What are you going to do?" I love the energy. He loves the energy of working with these kids. He loved being with them. They now have become closer, I believe, with the name of the daycare, and they do really seem like a family. And that's what he's developed. It's a kinship. It's a family affair that allows them to understand their roles in the hierarchy of the family. And they respect Bryce and Schwarber. They talk to them. They've helped the rookies. They help the young kids. That's what it should be like. That's what they're doing. They love playing together, and that's the fun. They love playing it. As much as it's not like on the field like hockey, where it's and basketball, where it's constant movement, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
You set up plays. You can't do that in baseball.
Right. There's less decision making that goes on.
Yes, it's just about. The only thing I would ask is that somebody teach Reese Hoskins how to play first base or get him the hell out of there.
But it's too late to change it right now.
Yeah,
you
you're
can't
not
pull
gonna
him
do
off there right now.
Derek calls it.
No, stop.
Just kidding.
Jason, I know you talked about this already
real
on
quick.
Monday's show, but you want to add something else to it? Yeah.
Yeah, I just real quick to kind of reiterate your guys' points and everything you guys have been saying. I talked about yesterday about series-altering moments. And the Phillies had two key series-altering moments, in my opinion. The first one was in Cardinals Game 1 when Alec Boehm got hit. And you saw him get all excited and hyped up. The second series-altering moment was in Braves Game 3. Bryson Stott works that 4-pitch. He fouls all 4 pitches a la Brett Myers in the 08 series when he, walked. And then we know Shane Victorino hits the grand slam. What's the two key players that it was? Boehm and Stott. The kids. This is what we're getting at. These are kids that had huge moments in this, not only the season, but in these playoffs. And where are they getting that from? From the guidance from the manager. And this is all the stuff that you guys are talking about. It's all showing up on the field.
It's crazy. Not just the kids, but the guys that are having the most impact so far through 2 rounds are the people, the kids, or Aaron Nola, Reese Hoskins, the guys with 0 playoff experience. The guys with playoff experience are having the less like Kyle Schwarber. I mean, he's been there, done that. He's having minimal impact on the field. So that's that. Look, we got about 15 minutes. Oh, go ahead, Dylan.
I was going to say, we're making all these analogies to plays that happening and players that were on the 08 run and this run. JT Realmuto had the closest thing to Chase Utley-esque that I've seen since that run with that inside the park home run. Like, everything's coming together. Brandon, like, everyone looks at Brandon Marsh like he's this grizzled veteran. Dude's one of the youngest dudes on the team. He hits a 3-run bomb to right field. Like, it's nuts, man. Everybody's stepping up.
I compared this on Monday morning on Trending in the AM. I made a couple comparisons, different players from 08 to now. And most people probably assumed I would have said JT to Carlos Ruiz because of the way they handle the pitching staff. No. I said JT was Chase Utley because of the hustle and catcher JT Realmuto will go out there and catch a doubleheader if you let him.
Yes.
JT never wants to come off the field. So there's definitely that. All right, guys, we always talk game script. Let's talk series script. How this series is going to play out. You start with Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola. We talk about how they've got to go to San Diego and get one. And that's how you set the tone for the series. George, we'll start with you. I'm leaning towards the fact that there's a damn good chance that we can get both games in San Diego because we've got Zach Wheeler and we've got Aaron Nola going. How do you see the series playing out, and how do you see those first 2 games working in San Diego?
Well, that's the biggest thing is Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola. And I'm not trying to downgrade the Padres pitching staff. I think the Padres are a really good team. I think they have a really good pitching staff. I'm taking Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola over Blake Snell, Clevenger, or Yu Darvish right now. I just am. It could be from a Phillies fan's standpoint, whatever. They've been nothing but pure dominance. And with that, and the way that this lineup's hitting, I understand the stats. Like, they don't hit very well again, but they don't hit well against Fried really well. They don't hit well against Strider. I know Strider was hurt and obviously all the implications, but anything can happen. If this lineup is on point and Wheeler and Nola are doing what they've done the entire postseason, they can take 2 in San Diego. Now, I'm not saying they will. The goal is always a split. Like the goal, it's not a loser mentality. The goal is to split in San Diego because then you go and you have 3 in Philly. That's home field advantage right there. It just is. So I think they split in San Diego. I'm not going to say they take 2. I think they split. I think San Diego's a good team. I'm not going to come out here and say Phillies in 5. I do think the Phillies will get it done in 6, though. I think there's the way of the road where the Phillies get this done in 6. I want to say the Phillies go out there and they roll and they win in 5 and things are just easy like it was against the Braves, but it's probably not going to be. The Padres are a really good team. They just took down the Dodgers. We took down the Braves. It's going to be an amazing series. I'm very, very excited. But give me Nolan Wheels over anybody. If they take 2 in San Diego, I will not be surprised. I wouldn't. And if that's the case, the series is over. Let's be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Jason, do you see them getting 1-1 in San Diego, 0-2, 2-0, and you already said you got them winning this series.
Well, for what it's worth, take this to heart. The Phillies have never had a 7-game series ever in the history of postseason.
Okay.
So, knowing that,
That's pretty crazy.
I like
that is kind of crazy. I never heard that stat before.
Phillies
Never.
have never had
Kyle, if you're watching, this is a pre-recorded show. Kyle, you're the team statistician. You'll have to stat check them. You'll have to Google.
never
it.
had a game
Kyle.
7. So knowing that, I do agree. I think you like the split. I am going to side on caution and say it is going to be a split. I think Phillies win game 1 with Aaron Nola. I think Zach Wheeler
Is
of
it
the
Wheeler
2,
going 1 or is
Wheeler's
Aaron Nola
going 1.
Wheeler's going to go.
going.
Oh, Wheeler's going 1.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I think it's going to flip flop. I think Zach Wheeler is actually going to come out and have his best game pitched so far. I think his last game, obviously, you can't say he had a bad game. He had one bad inning, a crooked inning that gave up 3 runs. So it's not a bad start. But I think you're going to see Zach Wheeler of the Zach Wheeler that we want. He's going to go 8 innings. He's going to really dominate. I think you split 1-1. And then you come back to Philly. And I'm going to go with George. I think Philly's in 6.
Okay. All right. Mitch, what do you got here?
I think Wheeler does well tomorrow. I think Nola has a little bit of a breakdown. He's been that way all year, not in the postseason. I'm not totally convinced that he's going to be pitcher's 3rd straight great game in a row, and that worries me, but you still get a split. Okay, they go back to the bank. You got Ranger and then a TBA for the 4th game. Okay, that doesn't bode well. If they can get the bats going and they can support Ranger can go 5 and the bullpen does what they can do, they can take a 2-1 advantage and then it goes to 2-2 after 4. Wheeler is pitching game 5. That's a win. Okay, go back to San Diego. Nola's pitching game 6.
I think I know where you're going with this right here.
Yep. I
think that's another Phillies in 6 from Mr. Mitch right there, Dylan. Do you need a minute?
I don't think they let it get back to San Diego.
I agree.
I don't think they let it get back to San Diego.
Baby.
There's 2 very key points here. A, the goal is to split. You guys are all 100% correct. We all know that. It doesn't really matter which way they get it. I tried to tell everyone that from the Brave series. Game 1 is so important in not letting it go back to San Diego because if they win game 1 with Wheeler, they're taking both in San Diego. They're taking both San Diego. They'll drop one of the first 2 in Philly, and then they'll end up closing it out on Sunday in Philly. So if they can win Tuesday night with Wheeler, they're taking both. If not, I think they lose game 1 and they'll get the Nola win. Biggest game of the series, biggest start of the series. It's not Aaron Nola. It is not Zach Wheeler. It is Ranger Suarez pitching at home, coming off that dreadful start in Atlanta. Miss me with he battled, and congratulations, dude. He had no control, no command. The moment looked so big for him on the road. Come home, settle down. That's the key point in the series. That's the start in the series. Mitch, you said 5. I need Ranger to get through at least 6. 6 and a third, somewhere around that range. Let the bullpen ease into it, because if you get that game 4 where you're going to need your bullpen, I don't need them the night before having to go from the 4th inning on, regardless of who you throw. So they win Tuesday. They take both. If then Rangers the biggest start, Phillies in 5.
Yeah, I see. That's exactly. I was setting you guys up all show, making you think I wasn't positive or I wasn't sure, but I got them taking both games in San Diego. No doubt in my mind. Look, we're not going to win 9-1 any of these games like we did against Atlanta. This pitching staff of San Diego is really legit. Their bullpen is really good, just like Atlanta's. We're gonna struggle to score runs in San Diego, but we take both games because Zach Wheeler's not going to have that bad game again. And to counter you, Mitch, October Aaron Nola is totally different than September. Aaron Nola. 100%.
It hasn't been cold yet. It hasn't been cold yet.
Aaron Nola, well, it's not going to be cold in San Diego.
I know.
It's going to be probably 85. I think they have 360 days of 85-degree weather a year.
Austin versus Aaron.
It is the most beautiful city in our country. What's that, Jason?
Who's his parents rooting for?
One of them is going to the World Series. One of their sons.
There is a Nola in the World Series, no matter what. I agree with Dylan saying we need 6 innings from Ranger Suarez, and I think we get it. I think we win Game 3 as well, and we go up 3-0 in the series. Now, I don't know whether Noah Syndergaard or whoever will pitch Game 4. I'm not saying they will get blown out or anything, but it's very hard to sweep a series.
Yeah,
very hard to sweep a series in baseball.
Very unlikely.
There's a ton of storylines though in this series that we didn't even talk about. How about Josh Hader? Josh Hader effect. We broke that guy. Now, obviously, he's been pitching better lately, but we didn't talk about that. Obviously, I mentioned the Bryce Harper getting injured against San Diego.
And it's always the narrative, Jason, that Bryce Harper and Manny Machado will be linked. One was drafted number 1 overall. One was drafted number 3 overall in the same draft. They had free agency at the same exact time. The Phillies courted both players. They will be linked for their entire career.
I don't think I'm crazy, but didn't Aaron Nola have like 8 perfect in San Diego this year, or 8 no-hit innings?
Was that in San Diego? I know he did it once on the West. Was it San Diego?
Yeah, in San Diego. He went into the 8th inning with a no-hitter. Yep.
Yeah.
So
and that right there is why Aaron Nola is tied for 4th.
That's always good
in MVP.
And JT's gonna finish top 8 in MVP voting. That's gonna be awesome.
Well, I mean, in the series right now, just for the series, Bryce Harper NLCS MVP favorite at 650, Manny Machado at 950, Soto at 10-1, and then you got Hoskins, Schwarber, and Nola all 13-1 to win the MVP of the series. And I'm telling you, Aaron Nola it's either going to be Aaron Nola or Zach Wheeler.
Aaron Nola looks like Cole Hamels, right? He looks like Cole Hamels right now.
Jason, did I not bring that up on a few shows ago?
Yeah.
That Aaron Nola vibe?
No, here's the only thing to not, if you're going with your Phillies in 5 prediction, to hold off on the Knowles bet, because he's going to get 1 start. Yeah,
exactly.
He will. I have a weather report. San Diego tomorrow in the mid-80s, and Wednesday it's 90. Philadelphia on Friday, 63 and sunny. Saturday, 69 and 40, 69 degrees and sunny. Sunday, 69 and partly cloudy.
I wish it was colder for those West Coast people.
I know.
He's going to use some expletive language.
I won't lie. If I could pick anywhere in this country to live, it would be San Diego. It's a beautiful country. But anyway, so we all are picking.
It's a great country.
It's a beautiful country, yeah.
Dude, I'm freaking exhausted, all right?
It's the morning. It's the AM.
Yeah. Trending in the AM. All right, we're going to wrap this segment of the show up here. George, thanks for joining me. We'll see you back on DSM another time. Real quick, Mitch.
Yeah.
Tell everybody where they can find you, where Burn with Mitch is, what you got going on, because obviously Tuesday nights when you do your show.
Yep. Tomorrow night at the Burn with Mitch on Twitter. You can also watch on Facebook.
Tonight. Make sure you let them know it's tonight, because this is airing on
tonight. Yeah, absolutely tonight. Because if it's not tonight, it's next week. But it's tonight. Tonight I have let me think. Well, we're gonna have a roundtable, a Phillies roundtable at 7:30 with a bunch of Phillies fans. Okay. I've got Absolutely Hammered coming on at AH Pod. We're gonna talk about it at 6:35, the series and what he thinks of what's gonna happen. And then have some That's the Phillies talk. I got Garnet Valley football too, but you're not interested in that.
All right, Mitch, thank you very much for joining us here on Trending the AM. First time in the morning. I can't thank you enough for joining us today.
Thanks for
Real
having
quick,
me.
we're going to pause in the action and reset here as Trending in the AM is brought to you by Gents Barber Lounge. Check out one of their 2 great locations in Fishtown and Old City and book your appointment today. Gents owns the craft and it shows, rated the #1 barbershop on Yelp in the Philadelphia area. Multiple award-winning barbers and being able to handle any style of cut, adult or kid. Take a quick look here at some of the great stuff that they do. And we're back, rolling right along here on Trending in the AM on DSM Media. Again, make sure you hit the like button, the follow button, the subscribe button on all the DSM Media social media channels wherever you are watching. Phillies, we wrapped that up, Dylan and Jason. We're bringing in 2 fresh faces. Thank you to George. Thank you for Mitch for joining us. But we're adding new faces to the screen here. Let's rearrange it. Let's keep these guys where they were. There we go. We're going to talk Sixers. Tonight, not only is the Phillies NLCS start, but we got Sixers. We got Boston Celtics. Game 1 of what is one of the most hyped seasons we've had. We've had a lot of hyped season lately, but this one, it's got the most expectations on it. We got Scotty joining us. We got Matt McGee. This is Matt's first time on Trending in the AM. He woke up early this morning for it, right?
Before work.
Yeah. So somebody at work might think you're working, but you're really here recording Trending in the AM.
So why aren't you answering anybody's comments?
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry. The statistician hopefully is putting the stats in the comment section right now. You know, when he puts them in live during the
Good
day.
work, Kyle.
Shout out to Kyle, my man. Guys, we got a big season here. You know, we can't get too ahead of ourselves with the Phillies and the Eagles because the Sixers, I mean, this is it. They've built the entire process around this season. They've gotten James Harden now for a full season. They've gone out and added PJ Tucker, improved their bench. They've done everything they need to do. This is the season, whether the process is a success or a failure, this is the season that to me, it's title or bust this year. Because if it's not, then you're back to square one to an extent next year. So we're going to start with you, Scotty. I always talk about the last couple of weeks, the last couple of months getting set, that timing is everything in all sports. The Sixers are all in right now. Is the timing right for them to be all in? And do they have the right team to come out of the Eastern Conference this year?
They do. They have as good a chance as they're ever really going to have, in my eyes. And I think you're right. I obviously made a video earlier this leading into this season, and I titled it "Now or Never" because it does, in a sense, feel like it's now or never. Whether you consider now the next year, you know, this year and the next year, maybe you consider it 2-year window if Harden decides to come back for another stint at it after this season. Say you do fail, maybe you get to the Eastern Conference Finals and then you can make that happen. But either way, that window is very short when you're talking about Harden and Embiid. Obviously, Tyrese Maxey kind of extends a little bit of a bridge to the next, the next amount of talent that you can come in. But this is it. It's now or never with this team, and there's no better opportunity. I know the East appears to be stacked. But what this league comes down to, and what is most important for this Sixers team, is the depth that they've built and keeping Joel Embiid healthy. Specifically, you want to keep Harden and Embiid healthy, right? But Embiid specifically, that's ultimately the last 2 years what we've needed. Like, I know all of these other things have been happening. Between last year, James Harden disappeared in the playoffs. Other guys didn't show up. The year before that, it's Ben Simmons, right? But in all of these series against the Hawks season ago or whatever, in that postseason, that second round series against the Hawks, if you have a healthy Embiid that doesn't have a partially torn knee, you're probably winning that series if he can be himself. Last year against the Miami Heat, if he doesn't get his face broken going into that series, you can probably beat the Miami Heat if he's at full strength, able to go at Bam Adebayo. So that is the biggest thing for me this year. But then you add the other things on top of it, right? The new mentality, the new guys that they've added. I will say the Milwaukee Bucks, man, that's That's the toughest. That's the toughest team in my eyes as far as competition coming out of the East. There's no way around that, though. You're going to have to go through the best in order to be the best. And I don't think, when you look at your surroundings, it's as good as it's a good as time as ever, right? Like you're not going to get a better opportunity with more talent. And I don't think there's a team in the East that has more talent. It's just whether they can put it all together.
Yeah, and Matt, I want you to jump in on this. So the timing, I keep talking about the timing, and I keep worrying about the Eastern Conference, the Bucks, the Heat, the Celtics, the Hawks, everybody, the Cavs now with Donovan Mitchell. Am I overthinking and overrating how good the other teams are compared to the Sixers? Are the Sixers that good of a team that maybe we shouldn't be? I mean, you got to be concerned with them all, but maybe not quite as concerned as I'm making it out to be.
One, Scotty, that was awesome. Great talks. But yeah, I think the East is really good, and I don't think there's any way around it. But I think the biggest problem the Sixers can run into isn't other teams; it's themselves, and it's Doc Rivers, and it's can he get this thing right? You have 12 to 13 guys that you could probably play in the NBA right now. And you got to push the right buttons. It'll be really interesting to see what he does with the rotation, who starts games, who closes games, everything like that. So don't get me wrong. I think there's a ton of talent in the Eastern Conference. Atlanta got DeJounte Murray. Cleveland got Donovan Mitchell. Obviously, the Nets thing is still a realm. They have Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. They're not going to go away. Boston adds Malcolm Brogdon. Like the East has only gotten better. And then obviously Chris Middleton comes back for Milwaukee, which I think a lot of people would have had them in the finals last year if he didn't get injured. So that's another thing that comes out of it. So don't get me wrong. I think the Eastern Conference has gotten better. But if you look at Philadelphia and what I think the biggest issues and biggest problems can come through is just within themselves. Can James Harden get back to superstar level? Can Tyrese Maxey take another leap and become a more competent defender against these guards in the conference? Can PJ Tucker give you the same amount of productivity he gave you last year as he gets a little bit older? Can Tobias Harris knock down a corner jumper? Who is the next line of guys? Is it Daniel House? Is it Matisse Thybulle? Is it Paul Reed? You signed Montrezl Harrell. How much time is he going to get in the playoffs? Because he has not had the most success in the playoffs as a player. So, again, Doc has his hands full. I'm glad I'm not the coach of this roster, even though it's probably going to be so fun to coach these guys because there's so many good players in the area, or in the room, I should say. So, the Eastern Conference has gotten better, but I think the problems are within the locker room, if that makes sense.
So Jason does the most morning shows with me, and he knows my love and extreme distaste, towards Glenn, Doc Rivers. And I keep thinking, you guys, both you, Scotty and Matt, you brought up Glenn, there, and I keep thinking to the Phillies because we just did a Phillies show, and I think about how Joe Girardi, was kept on too long. And it almost backfired this year. Jason, does Glenn Rivers get the full season because his team is so talented that they're not going to fall behind like the Phillies did? Or is there a short leash with Doc Rivers that maybe if they come out sputtering at first, that they're not a well-oiled machine at first, that maybe Glenn Rivers isn't here the entire season? Or is Glenn Rivers, Jason, going to get the opportunity for the full season?
Well, first and foremost, it's hard to follow up these two guys. Their knowledge is second to none. I'm the noob in the room, but if you want my honest feel on it, I feel that Doc Rivers should have a short leash because of the fact that they brought in all these other players. I mean, I look at the Anthony Melton acquisition. I don't know much about him, but I did kind of research and I looked, and he looks like a really good player. I mean, something that we didn't have, an athletic wing type guy that can he's athletic. What was the things that we were missing? Scotty used to say it all the time last year, athletic wings, people that could actually, run the floor. And I'm excited about the moves that they made, but knowing that they made those moves, yes, I think Doc Rivers, I'm going to say Doc. I know you don't like that, but that's what I know him as. I'm
struggling to say not say Doc Rivers at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think he should have a short leash. I guess it all depends on whether Daryl Morey and ownership would kind of feel the same way. What are their thoughts? Because they're the ones ultimately making the decisions, not what the fans think. Because I think there's a lot of fans that maybe even wanted Rivers out this year. So
that would be me.
So
Dylan, get in on this. Glenn Rivers,
Yeah.
Doc Rivers, whatever you want to call him at this point. He hasn't
So
pissed
can
me
I-
off yet this week.
So can I tell you why there won't be a short leash? Because the Sixers are not going to have those issues in the regular season. The question marks with Doc and his bench utilization and his rotation is playoff, second round. All these question marks are going to remain until April and May. So there will be no short leash because even though the East is loaded, as you talked about, Phil, they could be a 52-win team and still be the 5 seed in the East. So seeding doesn't matter too much to me this year. Sixers are going to win 50-plus games, probably around mid-50s, if I had to give a prediction. But there won't be no short leash because those problems aren't going to occur until later in the year. Just play Montrezl Harrell, Doc. That's all I got to say. I know we have a lot of B-ball Paul stage. Just play Montrezl Harrell. It's okay.
Yeah, let's not freak out that Isaiah Joe's not on the team anymore.
Yeah.
So Scotty, I want to get back to you on this, and it's something else I've been thinking about. I obviously have this distaste for Doc Rivers. I do. I can't deny it. But what we saw last year and the struggles he had, he is not going to be required to play George Niang 29 minutes off the bench. Yeah. We're not going to have Furkan Korkmaz running the point in the second round of the playoffs. So it's just kind of like where the Eagles, all of a sudden Jonathan Gannon looks like he might be able to run a defense. The Eagles are actually a better team with A.J. Brown on it. You give coaches better players, all of a sudden the coaches look better. Is that what I'm going to see this year, Scotty?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, Phil. And the thing with Doc Rivers is that it's just simply not black and white, right? Like it's not either or with Doc Rivers. It could be in the middle. I said this earlier on. It's Doc Rivers could very well be an average to an above average head coach and look like a good head coach this year. That very well may be the case. He could also elevate his coaching and look like a great coach, make all the right decisions. There's a world where Doc Rivers could end up as coach of the year this year. Like that is not out of the realm of possibilities. But there's also a world where Doc Rivers gets fired. Like there is a world where that does happen after the playoffs this year. But I would agree just as far as I don't see the short leash. I'm with you, Phil. I would have considered moving on from him after last season. I get it. You had a big star change in the middle of the season. They kind of want to give him that rope and give him that. And you also have to look outside and say what options are better. Are you able to just elevate Sam Cassell after you fire the head coach that he's under? You know what I mean? It's things like that. Would that sit well with Sam Cassell? Is that what he wants to do? Because I feel like he should already be a head coach, right?
Had the opportunity to have. He wanted. Is Sam Cassell like the head coach in waiting? To in my mind, he's kind of got that similar thing with, with that Bill Belichick had with McDaniels, where he was just waiting for his chance. He waited too long and ended up going somewhere else, and obviously he's failing as a head coach. But Sam Cassell could have gone somewhere. Yeah. And Matt, I want to get you in here. What if there is any chance that Doc Rivers has a short leash? Is it that we're 40 games into the season? There's still a lot of questionable rotate. He's still got Furkan Korkmaz playing more minutes than I don't know. Just say anybody.
It's not going to happen.
No Korkmaz.
It's not going to happen. But we'll just say what if.
I'll say this.
And say we're like this. We're floating around the 6th, 7th seat about the midway point of the season. Is there going to be pressure? Is there a chance that Glenn gets kicked on out?
So I'd assume, well, one, if they start out 22-29 like Joe Girardi did, he probably does get canned. But
what would that be in an 82 game season? Like I'm trying to figure out the math there.
Oh God,
what's
you're talking over 50. You're talking about over 50 games.
Yeah.
So my biggest thing at the NBA is a player-driven league. I think Daryl Morey sat down with James Harden and Joel Embiid after the season and said, like, do you want to run this with Doc Rivers? And they co-signed on it, saying yes. I would really hope. So I assume that would happen. But like I said, an NBA season, you can't fire a coach 40 games in. That's halfway through the season. So if he's going to get moved this season, it has to be a short leash. There's no way kind of around it. So I think it happens.
Or the season's a wash.
Yeah, based off skill, the roster's too good, which we thought that would be the same thing with the Phillies with how much money they spent and Nick Castellanos and Kyle Schwarber. So 22-29 was absolutely unacceptable, but luckily in baseball, it's a 162-game season, way bigger, double the sample size, things like that. So I would assume the Stars, again, co-signed on Doc to come back. I wanted Doc gone. I wanted him gone the last 2 seasons. But
Can,
go ahead.
can I play devil's advocate here?
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
Can I ask if we're being a little too harsh on Sir Doc? I'm not saying we're wrong. Like again, you and I, Scotty and I talk about this a lot.
That's the
But
point I'm bringing up, that
at
he had George Niang as his 6th man last year.
Exactly.
George Niang's the
So my
11th
point
man
is,
this
like,
year.
the last 2, 3, 4 seasons, obviously you have the Harden move, and that's the splash move we all wanted. But at the end of the day, we went into the postseason with the same mentality, talking ourselves into, oh, well, maybe Shake can heat up at the right time, or maybe like Isaiah Joe had to play. Furkan Korkmaz had to play. He wasn't playing Furkan over guys that deserved it, right? Like, okay, yeah, the backup center position got annoying. That's the one thing you can really give him flack for. So are we being too harsh on
He should have been canned the second DeAndre Jordan got announced in that starting lineup. Like, they shouldn't have allowed that game, dude. That was unbearable.
And I think, to Gint's point, just looking at it from like a half season perspective, it's just such a long season, even with 82 games. I just don't know, doing that in mid-season, it just doesn't help us at all, I would say. And
Scott,
look at the Boston Celtics last year. Ime Udoka. They started out terribly, turned it around mid-season after the All-Star break. No, he's a first-year head coach, probably gets a longer leash at that point, but I just don't know that you benefit from that mid-season.
There would be no benefit. The season would be a wash if that happens. Like, that means things are down in the dumpster.
Yeah.
He's gone. Let's move on from him.
Somebody's
and we're
probably
looking at
injured.
we're looking at next season. Like, it would not be to benefit them for the last 30 games or something.
Yeah.
All right, so we start the season tonight against the Boston Celtics. Obviously, you brought up their coach. They got a lot going on there in Boston. So it's really, everybody's talking about the Sixers, the Celtics. Yeah, we're talking about all those top 4 or 5 teams. We start out in Boston tonight. Scotty, again, you're Mr. NBA. Are we concerned that Boston might have a little bit of a letdown this year because of all the extracurricular activities that are going on in the front office? Is that the best way to call it? We're in the AM. I don't like to curse or say dirty words in the morning.
Fair enough.
Can that be something that knocks them down a peg that makes the Sixers a little bit better? Because they're one of the teams that I got my eye on. They're obviously one of the best teams in the East, but that outside noise can be a distraction and be a problem.
It's one of those things where you kind of got to let it play out and see. I do. There's 2 ways that I can look at this. I can look at this like, yes, the drama off the court, it's always going to be distracting. They're going to get questions about this all season. Every time they lose a game, right? They're going to get a question about if they're missing Ime Udoka. And let's be honest, look at the change that he made with that Boston Celtics team, got them to the finals in his first season as head coach. So he's obviously a good coach. He was doing the right things there, implementing the right culture. Aside from the off-the-court stuff, that sounds wrong. I don't know if it was the right culture.
On the field culture was right. It was the off-the-field culture.
Off the court stuff was highly questionable. But nonetheless, there's a world where they do fall victim to the distractions, and maybe that drops them to the 3rd to 5th seed in the East. I still think they're a really, really good team. And there is the other side of the spectrum. Look at what the Sixers did. They had this huge elephant in the room in Ben Simmons last year, and they were able to keep themselves afloat in the East, up at the top of the conference throughout the season. That was going through injuries, and it only made them stronger. It banded them together throughout that season. So there's little things. You just got to see what the character of the team is ultimately like, if they got the leadership in place as far as the players, right? Al Horford's there. They got older guys, Marcus Smart, that can hold these players accountable. So I don't think there's going to be like some major drop on the Boston Celtics. Do I think that gives the Sixers an advantage when we're talking about the teams at the top of the Eastern Conference? I do think so. I think that's when you get into those technicalities, and every little thing matters when you're talking about these teams at the top. But as far as a regular season standpoint, no, I don't think you're going to see much of a drop-off.
Matt, I want to get you in here now. So we talk Celtics, Brooklyn. We got everything going on there in Brooklyn. You got Milwaukee. In my opinion, still probably the toughest challenge for the Sixers, to get out of the Eastern Conference. Is Milwaukee the toughest challenge, Matt? Or is there, another team that you're really feeling will be the biggest challenge for the Sixers?
The thing with Milwaukee that poses probably the toughest challenge with the Sixers is like the way I look at it is, can anyone in the world out Embiid? No, they probably have the closest thing in Giannis, but Milwaukee's just big, athletic. They have so many guys like Bobby Portis, Brook Lopez, like they're all big. Drew Holiday's big, Chris Middleton's big and long, so they're probably the biggest, like best matchup for Philadelphia. But what Boston and Brooklyn bring is a totally different look. The thing with Boston is, I think Boston caught lightning in a bottle last year in the playoffs. Like they swept Brooklyn in the first round, who had like the biggest catastrophe going on. They beat Milwaukee in 7 games without Chris Middleton. They were one Jimmy Butler pull-up 3 away from not making the NBA Finals. So, but Boston has Brogdon, Smart, Brown, Tatum. They have 4 guys that can really come at you and put up 15 to 20 points. Obviously, Tatum and Brown, 25, 30. So can you match that type of guard play against a Boston? Can you match a Kevin Durant play? Can you match a Kyrie Irving play? That's where Philadelphia, I think, teams aren't going to out Embiid, so they need to find ways to beat them. So I think those 2 teams probably throw the best haymaker that way, and that's where you get into the James Harden. Can James Harden play with the Kyrie Irvings again? Can James Harden play with all those guys? So that's kind of where I'm at in terms of the toughest matchup in the East. I'd probably say it's Milwaukee, but I think so many different teams throw so many different, like the word is haymakers at you. Even like Chicago, Cleveland, Atlanta, like all these teams have guards that I don't know if Philadelphia has the defensive bodies to throw at these guards right now. And it's a question we'll have to see.
Dylan, thoughts on the toughest challenge for the Sixers to get out of the East?
Isn't it wild that we haven't even talked about the Miami Heat yet? With who Gint just said,
I was hoping someone would jump in.
The team that knocked us out of the playoffs last year and was that 3-pointer away from making the NBA Finals.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to agree with you just because of Gint's early point about Milwaukee is any series we had into in the postseason in the Eastern Conference specifically, you're going to have the best player on the floor at all times. In my opinion, that's Joel Embiid.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get Milwaukee and you have that conversation with Giannis, and the fact that in previous history he has struggles against Milwaukee with Brook Lopez and those guys and the size that they provide, and not just on the offensive side of things, on the defensive side of things with Brook Lopez's big ass standing in the corner and out at the top of the key and dragging Joel away from being that rim protector he wants to be on the defensive side of the ball. So I would agree, but there are a lot of teams. It'll just be interesting, right? Like this is where the DeAnthony Melton Steiny comes into play with those guards that Gint just talked about a little bit. Now, obviously, PJ Tucker is like a 37, 38-year-old power forward, small forward hybrid, so he's not going to be throwing it. But the defensive effort as a whole, I think, is going to look a lot different this year than it has in the past. So I think it'll be less isolation on those guards one-on-one in those matchups.
PJ Tucker guard Giannis? I'm trying to think if I've ever seen him.
I don't think I've ever seen it. I think he's
like
too small.
Like I don't like Joel guarding. I mean, he can guard him, and he has guarded him. But I always I always look at the playoff matchups and like you see it in other sports. All right, well, a wide receiver burned us, so we're going to go and get the best cornerback so that we're set for that next year in the playoffs. Do we have somebody that could stop Giannis outside of Joel Embiid?
I think he's too small.
I think we need to wait and see what Giannis is on this season before we answer that question, because he very well could improve. I mean, he looked like he was shooting jump shots in EuroLeague ball. So if he's shooting jump shots, it's hard to say who's going to guard him. I would imagine PJ Tucker, Tobias Harris. You throw a mix of them at him.
B-ball Paul.
Hey, Tobias Harris.
Paul, give him fouls. That's all you need.
No. Tobias Harris worked on his defense last year. Tobias Harris not as much of a liability as he was in the past. All right, Jason, I want to get you back in here on this conversation. So Matt mentioned it, and everybody mentioned James Harden. What James Harden is going to be this year. We know what Joel Embiid's going to be, the best player on the court. He always is. But I don't see James Harden having to be the second best player on the court, because I still firmly believe that Tyrese Maxey will, by the end of the season, always be the number 2 player on the court for the Sixers. Jason, do you think that it doesn't matter how great Tyrese Maxey becomes, James Harden still needs to be that elite player, maybe not the best scorer, but that elite player? Or can the Sixers survive if James Harden's the third best player all season long?
I'm going to preface this by saying if we get the James Harden that we got in the regular season, not the James Harden that we got in the playoffs, I think we absolutely can succeed. But I think it all goes back to what Scotty said. I think Joel Embiid is the best player on the court at any time, but Joel Embiid needs to be at his best in the playoffs. We've seen, as Scotty said, he's been injured the last two years. It's hard to get a vibe of how good the Sixers can be. We need Joel Embiid to be healthy come playoff time, because if he is, I think you can get the Tyrese Maxey that's risen to star status, and then have the James Harden as the third best player and absolutely win a title. I don't see why you can't, because Joel Embiid is that great. But it's all depending on the health, and that's what's scary about this team, because it's like a lot of what ifs.
And that's why having a deeper roster helps, because you can have old school load management and Joel Embiid play a few less minutes most games when you've got a Montrezl Harrell coming off the bench. You got the Anthony Melton. You can rest James Harden from here or there and not have much of a drop off. I mean, we saw what Melton did when John Morant got hurt last year. That was kind of when the casual fan outside of Memphis kind of learned what DeAnthony Melton was kind of capable of. Scotty, I mean, can we survive if James Harden is not the number 2 player on this team?
It will just depend on how you value the players, because as far as the way I see it playing out, there's a good chance that Tyrese Maxey may outscore James Harden this season. And I think if things are going the right way, that should be the case, quite honestly. That means James Harden is keeping everybody accountable. He's drawing a lot of attention still. And that means Tyrese Maxey's getting a lot of open looks, just like he was getting in preseason, where he shot incredibly. But yeah, I think Tyrese Maxey, we're looking at this kid. He just keeps on developing. You always are scared of a growth stunt, right? Where it just, looks like they're in a little bit of a slump. I just don't see it with this kid, man. He's got his head on straight. He was hooping all summer. He's getting that chemistry with all the guys as a starter now. So he's fitting more into his role. He didn't come into that role with James Harden until halfway through the season, or even further than that. And you're talking about, he didn't know that he was going to be the starting point guard going into the season. So he had to adjust from a distributor as the point guard, then to adjust to just being a combo shooting guard, basically, beside James Harden, who's a great facilitator. So I think just getting that chemistry down between those two, we talk about James Harden and Joel Embiid all the time. But yeah, I think it just really will depend on how you value playmaking, because James Harden is going to be that playmaker for this team. He should get around 9, 10, 11 assists per game. And I would say that's the best James Harden that we're getting. An efficiently shooting James Harden, right? 3-point line. We need him up. What was he at? 33% last year? That's not high enough for a guy of his caliber. We need him to be more efficient than that with his shots, but that doesn't mean he needs to take more. Just means he needs to hit the ones that he's taken, the open looks that he's granted. And ultimately, that's going to hold the defense accountable and make everybody's lives easier. So I think you may see around the same level of Harden. Kind of what Jason said. If you get that regular season Harden, 21, 22 points, 10 to 12 assists a game, that's ideal at this point.
Regular season Harden with postseason Maxey, along with a healthy Joel Embiid, is there any team that can match that? I don't know. I don't think so.
I'll pass that to someone else.
Yeah, anybody want to say that? Can anyone beat that?
I'll jump in here. I disagree with the first three. Not disagree, but to me, James Harden is the biggest factor, the biggest proponent, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want the word to be, in the Sixers reaching or winning an NBA title this year. I think obviously a healthy Joel Embiid is the key, but you know what you're getting out of Joel. I need an elevated James Harden, not just in the regular season, but in the postseason too. And I don't just need regular. My hot take of the year is if the Sixers have a MVP candidate this year, it's not Joel Embiid, it's James Harden. I think that's the kind of James Harden you're getting this year. I listen. I love what Tyrese Maxey is going to do this year. And when you watch the scoring and the 3-point shooting in the preseason, I love what Scotty said about getting those looks. The one play specifically where Harden brings it up, dumps it down to Tucker, defense collapses, bang out to the corner to Tyrese Maxey for an open three. But like Scotty said, it's how you value. Maxey might be up there in scoring in terms of more touches in the offense, but Harden overall has to be elevated this year. And I think with that,
go drop some pennies on James Harden to be MVP.
I
He's
might.
70 to 1 on DraftKings.
I might, man.
He's got the same odds as LaMelo Ball at 70 to 1.
That
tied for 19th in ranking there in odds.
I know this is against boy. The absolute disrespect in those odds makers, that is ridiculous. I'm not saying he wins MVP. I'm saying I think if the Sixers have
Zion
a candidate,
Williamson's got 22 to 1, and he hasn't played, more than 4 minutes in his entire career. I mean,
I think they factored Joel Embiid into that.
Anthony Edwards has got better odds. Come on now, 70 to 1. That's worth a shekel. That's worth a shekel for sure.
Embiid for Defensive Player of the Year. That's what I want to see.
I have all the odds up here for those awards. Defensive Player of the Year, Joel Embiid is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He is the 8th ranked guy in odds at 18 to 1. Rudy Gobert, obviously the favorite because he's won it like every single year. But Joel Embiid is 8th in that, and the MVP,
he will win it again, won't he? In Minnesota, though.
Yeah, Joel Embiid is 3rd in MVP voting. So they're your preseason, before the season starts odds right there. Dude, I like the thought process, though. Even though I'm saying he's going to be the 3rd best option, James Harden 70 to 1. That's enticing to me. That's worth $1. That's worth $1. $1. $1. All right, Matt. Let's keep going here. The Sixers. What other teams in the NBA? Let's just talk about the NBA as a whole. You and Scotty then can jump in here. Teams that you're most impressed with this offseason that have made the biggest jumps. I've got one that didn't make many moves in my head, but I see taking a jump. But I want to know what you guys think of the teams that are going to take the biggest jumps this year.
Biggest jump, I'd have to go with the Clippers, even though they made some changes, but they get Kawhi back. They get fully tooled. They grab John Wall, who I think is ready for a comeback season. He's one of my guys this year for sure. So I'd probably say the Clippers have the biggest jump. And I like Minnesota a lot. Minnesota, obviously go and get Gobert to pair with Cat. I hope it works. I don't know if it's going to work, but I think it has a lot of potential to work, if that makes sense. Those two teams out west definitely have my biggest jump. Obviously, you have Golden State. They'll be there. They're always there. Phoenix has a lot of drama going on, but you don't win 67 games and then all of a sudden they aren't good anymore. The vibes aren't good. They lost to a team from the NBL, so everyone thinks it's not good. It's just not how it works. And then obviously, like Luke is there. Luke is a top 5 player in the league. I kind of just named every single team in the Western Conference.
Yeah, you basically just went through the entire conference. I want to counter you for a second.
Outside of Denver.
Outside of Denver.
They stink.
Why are so many people so hyped on the Clippers? I mean, Kawhi did miss. He hasn't played a regular season basketball game in 14 months? John Wall in 14 years? I mean, why are we so hyped on John Wall, coming out of the wheelchair, and Kawhi Leonard, we're just going to magically assume? I mean, I will give credit. I loved Paul George's interview the other day when he said I am not 1B. I am number 2 on this team to Kawhi. That showed me something in Paul George there that he's willing to, admit that Kawhi's the guy there. But I want to believe in the Clippers because I'm a big Kawhi Leonard fan. But there's a lot of question marks that guys that haven't played basketball in a lot of time that they're relying on there.
I agree a ton. But I think the thing with the Clippers is how many there are. So when you put so many question marks, a couple have to strike, right? Like you're looking at Reggie Jackson, Paul George, Luke Kennard, Kawhi Leonard, Marcus Morris, Ivan Zubac, John Wall, Robert Covington's out there, Norman Powell, Moses Brown. They just have 100 guys that can play that, again, wouldn't want to be the coach of that roster and trying to figure out who's playing.
Tyronn Lue, he's a solid coach too. Yeah,
like, wouldn't want to be Tyronn Lue and have to figure out who's the right guys to play. Obviously, Paul George, Kawhi, they're going to be the guys. Paul George went on like one of the low key, most miraculous runs I've ever seen out of a player 2 years ago when Kawhi got hurt. But that's why I'm high on the Clippers. Like, again, John Wall hasn't played in forever, and John Wall could very well come back and not be John Wall. And maybe things aren't as bright, but they're definitely my favorite to win the West for sure. Okay.
All right. Scotty, team that's done the biggest job of improving their roster, or that you see taking the biggest jump. I do like Matt's a pick on Minnesota as well. We'll see if Cat can turn the intensity level up, I guess, a little bit. He's a great player, but he's one of those guys that comes up small in my mind in big moments. But if Rudy Gobert can kind of change that attitude in Minnesota, they could be good. But who do you got as the teams in the NBA that have made the biggest jump forward?
Weirdly enough, I don't think that my top teams in each conference has changed much. Quite honestly, and while I do think there are teams that have kind of put themselves in the playoff mix, I don't think there's anybody that's like jumped up like in the East. Nobody's jumped up into my top four with like a Donovan Mitchell move or a DeJounte Murray move. It's just not that impressive, right? It's a good move. It's a good move for both organizations. They're going in the right direction. But I just don't think it's enough to put them in that upper echelon of the Eastern Conference. And then on the Western Conference, my thing here, some of these teams do have enough, but it's not due to moves that they've made. The Clippers, for instance, it's just about getting healthy. And I think if they're at full health, if Kawhi is at his full health, they are a top 4 seed in the West. And they're going to be a menace to mess with.
Who else is getting healthy, Scotty, in the West?
You know who? Yeah, you know where I'm going with this one. I believe.
Trying to lead somewhere specific.
I don't know, but I'm gonna throw in the New Orleans Pelicans because I think they're gonna be very tough this year.
There it is.
You obviously took steps last year with Brandon Ingram. They got just like a culture down there. I like what they're doing. Jose Alvarado, CJ McCollum brings that veteran experience. Zion, can he stay healthy? That's the question marks. And they go across for a lot of these teams in the Western Conference. I do like the New Orleans Pelicans. There's a high ceiling for that team, but there's a low floor as well, I would say, for them. The Lakers, question marks, man. I mean, can LeBron stay healthy? Can AD stay healthy? I mean, they have a high ceiling, low floor. Once again, Russell Westbrook trying to bring him off the bench. Minnesota is an interesting one. I love Ant Edwards. I think he takes another step this year. I do think Rudy Gobert, he kind of benefits Cat in where he's strong at what Cat is weak at, and Cat is strong at what Gobert is weak at. So they can kind of fit into the correct roles in Minnesota. Just feels like something's off with Rudy Gobert. I'll be honest. That's why I can't be fully sold on the Minnesota Timberwolves, along with D'Angelo Russell, right? I'm just not sold on that. And we'll just have to wait and see if Ant Edwards can really catapult this team into a top 5 seed in the West. Phoenix Suns, I know Gant mentioned that. They got a ton of drama, but they're still a solid team, right? They did give DeAndre Ayton the bag. So it's like they did bring back mostly the same team. They're going to lose Jay Crowder most likely. Another team that I'm also looking at, I know I'm not going to spend too much time on Denver. Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray, that's a nice upgrade. And then you add in KCP. They brought in some pieces that fit around. So Denver, if they can also stay healthy, they will be a tough out. On the Eastern Conference, team more than the Cavs almost. I would probably put the Cavs and this team at the same spot. More than the Hawks for sure. I'm thinking about the Toronto Raptors, man. And they gave us fits in the playoffs last season. Honestly, had me worried, man. I'll be honest, because they have a ton of lengthy 3s and 4s, and you just don't see that across the NBA. Like, they have Scotty Barnes that can play 1 through 5. Pascal Siakam can bring the ball up the floor. Fred VanVleet was not healthy last postseason. Gary Trent Jr. could take another step. So that's another young team that they're coached the right way. They got the right mentality, the right culture, and I think they could take an elevated jump. Once again, not into the top 4, I would say. Brooklyn's got question marks too. There's a high ceiling for Brooklyn, I would say. But no,
I love the respect you just threw on Toronto. I love the respect you threw on Toronto. Toronto's not gonna, unless something happens in Brooklyn or Boston with an injury or their issues, they're not gonna get to the top 4 in the conference. But I could see Toronto taking a huge step as a team because, like you said, not only the length, just the youth. And I'm telling you,
1
if
year
Fred
together.
VanVleet was healthy, if Scotty Barnes didn't get hurt, that team could have beat the Sixers last year. They very well could have. And I'm very high on that Toronto team. Stop it. Stop it. I want to bring up one more team, guys. And Dylan, JC, get in here. Nobody. Matt and Scotty, they mentioned all these. I think they literally named 25 of the NBA teams.
Don't say Memphis.
No, I wasn't going to say
Oh,
that.
thank
Nobody
God.
mentioned Golden State.
Name
mean-
the entire Eastern and West Conference.
Yeah, outside of Golden State, Memphis, and
And the
nobody
Orlando
mentioned
Magic.
this Markelle Fultz, comeback player of the year, right? Oh, that's right. He broke his toe already. Injured again. Markelle Fultz.
Listen,
God.
I think I like what the Magic are doing. They got a lot of young guys.
The Magic are still going to
I
only
like
win.
Paulo.
They'll be good in 10 years. I love Paulo,
years
though,
now.
by the way.
I love
Scott,
Paulo and Wagner. Franz. I like him.
Paulo. Yeah,
Franz.
that's your Duke guy,
Oh,
right?
Paulo, rookie of the
Yeah.
year, man.
Rookie of the
Benedict
year,
III.
odds-on favorite for Rookie of the Year. Golden State, they're still the class of the West, though. They have been for a long time. And any worries that they see a drop-off, guys? Dylan? I mean, obviously, I haven't talked yet on this show on Trending in the AM, the Draymond Green and Poole scuffle. We have not discussed that once on this show. I mean, it was more than a scuffle, and it kind of just got brushed under the rug in Golden State.
You
I
think?
mean,
Devontae Adams is being sued in municipal
I
court,
know.
but Draymond Green, like,
I
if someone
know.
assaulted
I mean,
anybody,
Jordan
Draymond Green
Poole-
assaulted his
Jordan
teammate.
Poole got $144 million. That was his payoff.
He was probably only going to get 100, and they said, "Here's another 40."
I would keep
play
my
with
mouth
him.
shut for $40 million.
But no, like this team is as close to like a dynasty that I could like. The mix of young talent still on the rise in that team,
Watson.
Kuminga,
What?
Moses Moody.
Yep, there you go.
Kuminga.
Oh,
And
I
then
do
obviously
love
Jordan
Kuminga.
Poole,
He's nice too.
James Wiseman, exactly. Like, and then like,
Dante DiVincenzo.
I forgot.
Oh,
he
they
went there.
did pick up Dante,
I
man.
forgot he went
That's
there.
solid. That's
What's the
solid.
name?
Andrew
But then,
Wiggins.
like,
Fits there.
Wiggins finally found his home, found his role there. It seems like, especially in the postseason last year. Clay gets an entire year back healthy. Steph is going to be in the MVP conversation again as long as he can stay healthy. Draymond, probably should have been in handcuffs that day, but
this is my question.
is the
How can
biggest
a
Swiss
team-
Army knife.
How is a team so capable of having something like that happen in their practice and it recorded? It's not like it was just a rumor coming out of practice. And it is not. It doesn't seem like on the surface it's fracturing that organization at all.
Listen, Draymond seems like he's off his rocker. I don't know how else to explain it. Like, the dude is always like, even it's never to the extent of what just happened, but like there's always something with Draymond. There's a drama, there's a scuffle, there's an argument, there's technicals. He's talking all this shit. He just seems like he's a little off.
This is totally for like another podcast, but Draymond Green has probably done just as much harm.
Like,
to
this
Golden
should have been on
State
Fist
as he's done.
First.
Dude, you think
Yeah,
about it.
it's
He
on
got
Fist First,
suspended.
yeah.
He got suspended Game 5 of 2016 NBA Finals. Gets in a verbal altercation with Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant ends up leaving. Now he's throwing punches after a championship. Like,
Yeah, he's
they
crazy.
won 4
that's-
titles, but he's done 3 incidents that have cost him.
and he's supposed to, he's supposed to be this like
leader.
this leader
Yeah,
and this
yeah.
guy that brings people together, right? He's the guy that I would think in my head. He's like you would hate to play against him, but love to play with him. But I'm not
think
getting
he's
punched in my jaw at practice, man.
You think he's bipolar, or maybe he has some kind of mental issue that nobody's really knew? Obviously,
think he has
Possibly.
An ego. He's arrogant.
yeah.
I think that's his
Ego.
mental
Ain't
issue.
Ain't for me to say or
He's
diagnose,
not
but
asking for a max contract this offseason. I'm pretty sure he asked for a max
I'm
contract.
pretty
That's
sure he
what I
did,
saw that
man.
report, and he's apparently team said they'll give it to him, but
And he's probably pissed that Jordan Poole got that.
Yeah, Jordan Poole got the. Well, that's what you get when you punch somebody on camera in practice. The guy getting punched
Yeah.
will get the bag.
And then
But
all
to
he had
answer
say
your
is-
question, Phil, Golden State ain't going nowhere.
Yes, correct.
All right, yeah, that's-
All he
All
had
right,
to say about it as well, Phil. We're professionals. We got a job. That's all Draymond said.
Yeah,
Didn't
what?
apologize.
You didn't want
nothing.
to throw out an "I'm sorry, bro." Like, I
wild.
slept you. My bad. Like, you just said we're professionals. Come
Friend
to
was
work.
not a- that was a very large haymaker. That was a fist
Yeah,
first.
Superman
I
punch.
think Steve needs to like
snuck
do like a
him.
frame by frame breakdown of that punch. on
He
his
snuck
first
him. Like, if you're Jordan Poole, all right, he pushed Draymond. Get out of my face. Got it. I know he's what. If you're him, your teammate ain't throwing a right hand over two dudes at your jaw. It's just you're not expecting it at all. No shit, he went to sleep.
All right,
God.
let's start with Jason. Let's wrap this trending in the AM up. All right, tonight, Sixers, Celtics, game 1. Do they win? And Jason, do they win game 1? How far do they advance this season? And does Joel Embiid finally get his first MVP in the league?
First question, I think they do win tonight.
Mhm.
I'm looking for. I know it's the Celtics, but I think I like the vibe that I see with this team. I think Maxey showed in the preseason. Like, I mean, I saw a lot of videos, and he looks amazing. Embiid looks healthy. All reports are that he is healthy. So I think they win tonight. I know this is the early prediction. I don't think the Sixers are going to win a title, but I do think they will reach the conference finals this year. Okay. I think they get over that hump of the second round. I just still think there's other teams, and it could go the other way if things all work out well. And if James Harden is the MVP type player that Dylan's, predicting, then that could change. But I think they get to the Eastern Conference Finals this year. That's my prediction.
They are projected at 50.5 wins on DraftKings. Are they over or under 50.5 wins?
Over.
53 wins, I think. 54
wins.
wins.
All right, Scotty. Same question. Do they win game 1? We talked about this on Trending on Monday and on Friday last week. The momentum of Philly sports, and that could carry on to the Sixers right now and get them off to a hot start. Because everybody wants that back page. Nobody wants to be kicked off the back page. Will the Sixers come out on fire tonight? How far do they go? What do you got? Obviously, over the 50 wins, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
That number.
I'm going to go send that when I get off of here, actually. Yeah, I like that one. No, I think tonight there's no way I'm picking against the Sixers in game 1 of the season. That's for sure. Especially against the dirty old Boston Celtics. Got all that nasty drama going on off the court. They're going to be distracted. They're going to come out, a little lackadaisical, coming off that finals run. They're still tired. They didn't get a long summer there. Sixers ready to go. They're hungry. They want to prove a point. They got a statement to make tonight. And I do think the Sixers come out and make that statement on the road in Boston. Now, don't get me wrong. There is a world where Boston Celtics, like I said, they man up, come out together. They want to make a statement, right? But hopefully the Sixers can prove to be better than that, even on the first night. As far as the season outlook, I'm looking at the Sixers, 1, 2, 3 seed in the East. I think anywhere from 1 to 3. The only other teams I would see competing them for those top 3 seeds is Milwaukee and Boston. As far as end goals or what would be a successful season in my eyes, I know I've said now or never. I would say the Eastern Conference Finals trip. Obviously, make it competitive, if not win it. That would be a successful season for me. That's a step in the right direction. That is the next step as far as we got to see progress, right? Something that bodes well for us going into the following season. But I do think now or never in the next 2 seasons, they got to go in and win the championship or it isn't happening. While I say that, I do think the Sixers have one of the best opportunities in the NBA to win the championship this year, about as big as anybody else. The other side of that, I would just say I trust some teams a little bit more, one being the Milwaukee Bucks in the Eastern Conference. I trust that Giannis will be able to stay healthier. I trust that his teammates will show up in the playoffs because they have done it before. Giannis will show up in the playoffs because he has done it before. So it's those things that makes me not give them the benefit of the doubt as far as an NBA championship this season. They have a very good chance to do it, though.
Dylan, same questions right around the board here.
Yeah. So, the season outlook, take the over. I wish I had the patience to place wagers on futures bets. I just don't have the patience for it. The Sixers are going to win, anything
right now, it's
54,
minus 130. It's minus 130.
Yeah. So obviously the odds are telling you over, but yeah, I like the over. Season outlook, as far as a success, I think, listen, where we are right now heading into tonight's matchup versus where we were with all the off the court, the Ben Simmons stuff last year, Tobias Harris, Tyrese Maxey not knowing their roles, everything, like the lack of depth. This team is in such a better position at this time of the year than they were last year. And having that full training camp, I think it really is going to propel this team. Eastern Conference Finals is great, but when you're talking about a possible 2-year window, the time is now, like Scotty is saying. Of course, if they lose in 7 to the Bucks in Milwaukee, it's hard to argue with a disappointing season. Sixers win tonight against Boston. I said this again on the Faithful Fanatic show. Scotty just alluded to it. It's kind of a statement, right? Like, it's game 1 of 2, but every year we sit here in June, or I mean in January or February, when the Sixers win 5 or 6 games in a row, and it's like, well, they beat the Magic and the Timberwolves and the Wizards. I need to see a test. And then we get Milwaukee on the road or whatever, right? You get that test night 1. Now, again, it's 1 of 82, so it's a long, long season. It's not going to mean much at the end of the day, but it is a barometer to start the year. Sixers win, and James Harden balls out.
I love it. All right, Matt, final guy before I give my thoughts here.
Yeah, I think they're going to win. I think it's like a homecoming game. It's the roster. It's probably been top 5 most talked about in the offseason. Usually one of those teams come out and sprint somebody night 1. I'm going to go if they do that. Boston has had some pieces that have came in. They're going to win more than 50 games. I'd put a decent chunk of change on it. I'd probably alt it if I could, like 52.5. Put them right around 53, 54 wins. I don't think Embiid's going to MVP. I don't think he's going to play enough games. They're going to give him load management. You bolstered the roster to not have to play Embiid on a Tuesday night in Orlando, is me and Dylan's favorite line. So that's my predictions for how this looks.
So this is how I see it going, guys. First and foremost, my finals prediction, it only happens if 2 players on one team, 1 player on the other team reach the finals healthy. And that's if Kawhi Leonard is healthy. That's if Joel Embiid is healthy. Joel Embiid could play 65 games. I don't care. It's if he misses those games because of load management or because he's hurt, and then come playoff times, he's not healthy. Same thing with James Harden. If he misses time because you want to protect him, great, fantastic. If he's healthy in the playoffs, it is going to be a Sixers-Clippers NBA Finals, in my opinion. Now, if any of those 3 big stars are hurt significantly, missed time, are not 100% in the playoffs, that changes. I think the Bucks present, like Scotty said, the biggest challenge. Do not forget about Brooklyn.
Do not.
Kevin Durant's healthy. Kyrie's mentally ready. He's going to be playing all 82 games. There's no COVID restrictions. If Ben Simmons is even a remotely half-decent basketball player, the Brooklyn Nets, it's good. It could go 1, 2, 3, any order, in my opinion. I think the Celtics are the 4th best team in the Eastern Conference, in my opinion. It's going to be Brooklyn, Milwaukee, Sixers, 1, 2, 3, any order. But if we are healthy, we come out. You say, Matt, 53-ish wins, 54 wins. I can see this Sixers team, if they stay healthy, pushing 58, 59 wins. That's how confident I am in this team. If Kawhi's healthy, they play them. If Kawhi's not healthy, it's still the Golden State Warriors. And that's how I see this season playing out. It's health. And that's why you have this deep team, so you can keep your team healthy. And I think the sky's the limit. I do believe it's now or never, like you said, Scotty, but I do also believe that this is the team that can have that now, that could get us to the finals. Whether we could beat the Clippers, I mean, that's so far down the line to really predict, to really think about. But this team is stacked enough that they could beat any team in the NBA on any given night, and they could hoist the trophy. And I really, truly believe if the Phillies make a run to the World Series, if the Eagles make a run to the Super Bowl, the Sixers are going to be just as motivated. I really firmly believe that all the city teams motivate the other city teams to be better. You see Joel on the sideline of the Eagles game. You'll see on Thursday night, home opener against Milwaukee, you'll see Bryce Harper or Aaron Nolan, Reese Hoskins. You'll see a bunch of those guys on the sideline sitting courtside. Probably one of them ringing the bell if they even do that this year.
Eagles off week, you'll definitely see them there.
You'll definitely see Jalen Hurts sitting courtside on Thursday night. So I think that all plays a factor, and I think the Sixers do, as long as they stay healthy, make a really deep run. Guys, before we wrap this up, anybody else have any final parting thoughts on the Sixers? Scotty, Matt, you weren't here for the first half of the show. Are the Phillies advancing into the World Series?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
They're winning the World Series, not just they're winning the
I
World
gotta ask
Series.
you guys, final question, I promise. I don't know what you guys got for your TV viewing. You got the Sixers tonight and the Phillies playing at the same time. Me, if I've got a laptop and a big screen TV, the Phillies will be on the big screen TV. The Sixers will be on the laptop. Just because it's NLCS. I know, Scotty. I know. It breaks my heart.
You're asking me the question, aren't you?
Yeah.
The two
What's
TV
on the
setup
big
is-
TV? What's on the little TV tonight, guys?
Man.
Are you going out to the local Best Buy and buying a second big screen TV so you
I
can
got-
side by side?
I already
I'm
got
not
the
a-
two.
64 and a 56 behind me.
So you're good, Gant.
Well,
You're
well,
good.
I got
so
the
which
set-
which one's going on the 64?
The
Which
Phillies,
one's going-
that's how you have to out of respect. That would be
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
disrespectful.
I got the 70 and the 55 is already set up and ready to go. Sixers will start on the 70 because there's a 30-minute gap, and then it will be flipped.
It has
Jason,
to.
you're watching Phillies on your screen. Absolutely, right?
Yeah, but I will watch the Sixers on my phone.
He downgraded the Sixers to a cell phone screen for game one.
Priorities.
Well,
How the
well,
NLCS game one.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
tough for me, man. I've contemplated, watching the Sixers game on the big screen until it's over and then moving the Phillies over. But you guys know I'm not a baseball guy, but I do love the Phillies nonetheless. I love all my Philly teams. So I, out of respect for you guys, out of respect for the Phils, I'm gonna go ahead and throw the Fightins on the big screen. It's
Do
just
that.
one of 82 NBA, man.
Talking about
One of
the
82.
Fightins.
We got plenty
Yeah,
of
man, an
plenty of
NLCS
Sixers
team.
games coming
Remember,
on. So.
When Mitch was on for the baseball half of this show, he asked Dylan, he asked George how old they were the last time they made a run. They were 10 years old. All right, this doesn't happen very often.
Absolutely.
So you
All
got to
in.
enjoy it while you can. All right, we're gonna wrap up Trending in the AM. Now we just broke tonight, guys. Dylan, Jason, you've been here the whole show. We
The
broke
record.
me and Mark's record-long 90-minute episode of Trending in the AM. We are now at 100 minutes
Go.
right here of Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media. Make sure you hit the like button, the subscribe button on YouTube. Follow everybody on all the social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. You know the drill, guys. We greatly appreciate it. Tomorrow morning, Dylan and Jason, they'll be hosting. I got to be into work super, super early. I can't be pre-recording those show while the Phillies game is going on. There's no way that's happening. Dylan and Jason tomorrow morning will be breaking down both the Sixers game and the Phillies game. Hopefully both big victories for us. Everybody have a great day. You'll see me back here Thursday morning, 8:30 a.m. Hey, everybody. Yo, it's ring the bell. And what are we saying for do we have a slogan for the Sixers yet this year?
Here they
What is
come.
their slogan?
Is it here they come
Here
again?
they
I don't know.
So,
I don't know. It's ring
Yeah,
the
we're
bell.
gonna
It's
come
here
up
they
with
come,
Landon
guys.
Dickerson was coming down some guys' throats last night.
on that note, we are out of here, guys. Everybody have a great day.
Peace.
And Philadelphia has it.